Welcome to the Dr. Wyatt Marriage Podcast, where developing a long-lasting, happy relationship is the status symbol to achieve, and following my tools is one path to help get you there. I'm your host, Dr. Wyatt Fisher, specializing in couples therapy. If you have a heart for couples and you want to learn all of my tools so that you can start helping couples and help me lower the divorce rate one marriage at a time, you still can join my FRCA Coaching Academy. The first class was this past Tuesday, the 22nd of April, but you still can enroll by next Tuesday, the 29th, because then I can just send you the recording for the first class and you can get caught up. So if you have a heart for couples, if you want to make an impact, if you feel called, if you want to pay it forward with all the wisdom you have learned, definitely consider enrolling in my FRCA Coaching Academy. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to my website and click on FRCA. I'm starting to prep for my conference in Dallas coming up this weekend on the 27th. Those of you who are going to be coming, I look forward to meeting you there. And I always look forward to these little getaways because it's kind of like a personal retreat for me as well. While I'm there, I'm going to visit my dad who lives in Tyler, Texas, and just looking forward to it for some time to get away, recharge my batteries, while also working with couples and helping them recharge their marriage. And again, this is my last time to do the conference in Texas, and I'm not going to do it in Florida any longer moving forward. I'm only going to do my conferences in Colorado. So the next one in Colorado is July 27th. So today I'm going to talk about how to win back your partner in 3 steps. A lot of couples I see, one partner is hanging on by a thread. They're thinking of divorce, they're feeling hopeless, they're wobbling. They're not quite sure if they want to stay married. They're really thinking about, should I stay or should I go? And when that's the dynamic, I have a strategy that I implement, and I'm going to share that strategy with you today because maybe that's where you're at. Maybe you're in a marriage and your partner is hanging on by a thread. They're not sure if they want to stay married to you. They have felt neglected for far too long. And they're at a point in their life where they don't want to tolerate it anymore. They want to be happy. They want their needs met. They're tired of feeling second place in your life. And so you're panicking because you're wondering, how can I win them back? What can I do to win them back? Now, a quick disclaimer. This strategy I'm going to share with you today does not always work. Because sometimes when someone has decided to leave the marriage, no matter what you do, it's not enough. Because they're burned out. They've given up, they've resigned, in their heart, they've already moved on. So if your partner has already moved on emotionally, then these strategies we're going to talk about today may not work. However, you should try them anyway, because you don't know if they're going to work until you try them. And these 3 steps we're going to talk about are very powerful, very effective. And if you implement these 3 things and your partner has not closed the door on you all the way, then they can create a massive turnaround. I worked with a couple one time and the wife wanted a divorce, but her husband talked her into coming in for couples therapy, and I worked with them for 6 weeks on these strategies we're going to talk about today. And within 6 weeks, the wife went from saying, I want a divorce, to saying, I feel like I'm falling back in love with him. So that's the potential. The potential is incredible, but you have to follow the steps I'm going to outline very carefully. So I'm going to be talking to partners today whose partner wants to get a divorce or is seriously considering it, and you are panicking. You do not know how to win their heart back. So the first thing to do to win their heart back is you have to identify their top fillers and the top drainers. So the fillers are the top things that your partner needs to feel loved and satisfied. Do you know what your partner's fillers are? Some common ones include emotional intimacy, affection, quality time, sex, words of affirmation, you name it. There's all sorts of fillers that your partner may need. You have to identify the top 3. The reason we identify the top 3 is that keeps it manageable. If you try to focus on more than 3, your efficacy is going to go down and you're not going to do any of them well. So you have to narrow it in on 3, your partner's top 3 fillers. Ask them what they are. And by the way, you know something is a filler if you would need it no matter who you're married to. So for example, if you like affection, most likely you would want affection no matter who your partner is. That's how you know something is a filler. So the first step, you're going to ask your partner, what are the top 3 fillers you need to feel really loved and satisfied in this marriage? Let them speak to you and educate you on what those 3 things are. And if you don't know what they mean, then you need to ask them, what does that look like? Give me an example. How could I do that? Once they've told you the top 3 fillers they're looking for, now you have to ask them, what are the top 3 drainers that I do that you don't like? What are the 3 behaviors I do that makes you feel negative toward me? Now, quick side note, these drainers are going to be specific to who you're married to because every partner has their own set of problems. And this is why subsequent marriages tend to not be better than the previous ones because you're just swapping out one set of problems for a new set of problems. But a drainer is anything that you do that makes your partner feel negative toward you. So some examples might be controlling or defensive or harsh anger or invalidating or self-absorbed. Those are all examples, but again, you have to ask your spouse, what are the top 3 drainers I do that makes you feel negative toward me? Write those down. And if you don't understand what they're referring to, ask them questions. What do you mean by that term? What's an example of me doing that? And when you're asking for examples, do not get defensive. Because the whole goal here is trying to understand what your partner is looking for, what they want more of, and what they want less of. So do not get into a debate. Do not argue. If they're describing things that you don't think you are, then just ask them, what do you mean by that term? What does that look like for you? Don't get caught up in their wording or in their language because they might be defining their language different than how you would define it. But that's step 1. You're identifying your partner's fillers and their drainers. Now step 2. Step 2, it's imperative that you get feedback once a week, maybe more often. If your partner is hanging on by a thread, maybe you should be getting feedback twice a week. But at a minimum, you're going to get feedback once a week on how well you are filling up their love bucket. And that means, how well am I giving you those fillers? How well am I avoiding those drainers? You need that feedback once a week. And here's the 3 questions you're going to ask them once a week. Per item, you're going to say, what's my number for the week? Then you're going to say, what did I do right? Then you're going to say, how can I improve? So what's my number? What did I do right? How can I improve? You're asking that per filler and per drainer. So for example, if affection is your partner's filler, that's one of their 3, you would say, what's my number on the week for affection? Then you would say, what did I do right? Then you would say, how can I improve? Now, the numbering on the fillers is 0 to plus 10 because that's filling up their bucket. It's putting water into their bucket. So the best you can do on a filler is plus 10. The worst you can do is 0. That means you didn't fill up their bucket at all with that specific filler. 0 to plus 10 is filler. The drainers, the numbering is 0 to negative 10 because drainers subtract water out of the bucket. They pour water out of the bucket. They take water out. So it's 0 to negative 10. So on the drainers, the best you can do is a 0. The worst you can do is a negative 10. So let's say a drainer behavior you have is harsh anger. So you would ask your partner, what's my number? What did I do right? How can I improve? You ask the exact same 3 questions per filler, then per drainer. So on a filler, you may get a plus 4. On a drainer, you may get a negative 8. So again, the best on a filler is a plus 10. The worst on the drainer is negative 10. This feedback once a week is imperative because it's going to take the guesswork out of how well you're doing as a partner. Often we're guessing. We're hoping we're doing well. We're hoping we're doing it right, but we're not quite sure. We're guessing at it. Getting this quantitative and qualitative feedback is imperative. When you get numbers, it hits you differently. It's very sobering, and it breaks any illusion of how well you think you're doing, and it gives you an immediate snapshot of how happy your partner is. So for example, on affection, if you say, what's my number for the week on affection? And they say plus 2, and the best you could get is plus 10, that means you're doing lousy. That means you have a lot of work to do. You are not providing affection in the way they want it. And that's why you then say, what did I do right? Because you did get a plus 2. So you have to learn what you are doing right. So you keep doing that. And then moreover, you're going to say, how can I improve? Then they're going to tell you. Your partner is the master of how to make them happy. This tool is going to train you on how to do it. So you're going to get that quantifiable number plus 2. Then you're going to hear what you did right. So you keep doing that. Then you're going to hear how you can improve and take notes. Because the more you write this information down per item, the more you study that information every day, you're going to slowly change yourself. And that's the key. You need to move from being mindless to mindful in your relationship. When you do that, you're going to start growing and changing and refining yourself based on the feedback from your partner. And this is why you need to do it every single week, because then you can track your numbers. You can see, am I getting better or am I getting worse? Am I plateauing? How am I doing? You're going to hear that now from quantitative and qualitative feedback. The quantitative is essential because when you just hear, the affection could be better, that's not near as clear as you get a +2 for the week. There's something about the numbers that makes you wake up and realize if you're doing well or if you have a lot of work cut out for you. So that's why I emphasize the quantitative and the qualitative. So if you think about this for a second, the best anyone can ever do on filling up their partner's love bucket is a +30. That means you just got a +10, 10, 10 on the fillers and a 0, 0, 0 on the drainers. That's a +30. If you ever get a +30, you need to go out and celebrate. You need to do cartwheels because that is incredible. I do this with my wife on a regular basis, and I've only gotten a +30 a handful of times. That shows how hard it is. This is my tool that I train people on, and I've only gotten +30 a handful of times. It's hard. It's hard to get a perfect score. The worst you can do is a -30. That means on the fillers, you just got a 0, 0, 0, and on the drainers, you just got a -10, -10, -10. So the possible number range here on these love buckets is a +30 to a -30. The first time someone does it, the first time you do it, don't be surprised you're in the negatives for your grand total. The grand total number means I'm adding up all my fillers, and I'm adding that column against all of my drainers. You add those two columns together, the fillers and the drainers, you put that together, and that gives you your grand total number for how well you have filled up your partner's bucket. The first time people do this, normally they're in the negatives. I've seen people get -25 for their first grand total, or -28, -15 for their first grand total number. That's why they're in couples therapy, because the marriage is hanging on by a thread. But it's helpful to get that baseline number so that you know your starting point and you know where you need to hustle the most. And that leads me to point number 3. You're going to keep asking your partner for feedback, like I've already described, per filler, per drainer, once a week or more, until your grand total number is +20 and above on a regular basis. And a regular basis would mean 4 to 6 weeks in a row. If you start getting +20 and above for your grand total, 4 to 6 weeks in a row, do you know what that means? That means you have cracked the code. You have figured it out. You have reinvented yourself and you have sustained the gains. And that's what your partner needs to not leave you. That's what they need to reconsider you. That's what they need to think about, maybe I should give this marriage another chance. Maybe I should give him or her another chance. Maybe they really are going to make these changes. That's what your partner needs to feel hope. That's what they need to fall back in love with you. So you'll know once you're there. It's once you hit +20 for your grand total number for at least 4 to 6 weeks in a row. Once you get to that place, if your partner is open, then you can start focusing on your love bucket as well, but not until then. You don't want to press for your needs when your partner is the one hanging on by a thread. You don't want to be pushing them to fill your bucket when they're considering divorce. That's the last thing you want to do. All you want to do is focus on their love bucket continuously till you get +20 and above on a regular basis. Once you hit that, then it makes sense to start talking about your love bucket and then providing your fillers and them avoiding the drainers that you don't like. So that's when you start integrating your love bucket, is after you have mastered theirs on a regular basis. So if you put those 3 things together, that's how you can win back your partner. The first thing is you identify their top fillers and drainers. Second, you're going to get weekly feedback on each one by saying, what's my number? What did I do right? How can I improve? And number 3, you're going to keep doing that until you get +20 and above for your grand total for several weeks in a row. And then you can start focusing on your love bucket as well. If you want my personalized training on these tools that I teach and my most affordable resource, consider joining my Tools Marriage course. Tools meets live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and I teach on one tool per week. Attending live is very enriching because you get to interact with me, the other couples. We get to role play the tools. You can ask questions. So it really helps you to internalize and master these tools because these tools are needed to improve your marriage. They're needed to bring back your marriage. The tools are needed to have a lasting, successful, happy relationship. So if you want these tools, if you want to improve your relationship, click the link in the show notes or go to my website and click on tools. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to click the 5 stars and leave a review. I really appreciate your reviews. They mean a lot to me, and they help the podcast get ranked higher on search results so more couples can find it. Also, be sure to hit the share button. Share this episode with one person you know today who is struggling in their marriage. It could change their relationship. If you have questions for me that you want me to address on this podcast, leave a voicemail at 303-578-0618, and I'll respond to your question on a future episode. And remember, your marriage is alive. If you care for it and nurture it, it will grow. But if you deprive it and neglect it, it will wilt and die. The choice is up to you. Take care.